All right. BNFT starting this morning. It says tax cuts, not the solution. That's according to Chief Executive of Dalex Finance. And then IMF hints at bailout renegotiation as it engages new government in weeks. The Daily Graphic has the story, "Grant me talent to lead Ghana to prosperity." That's President Akufo-Addo talking at the Ridge Church in Accra yesterday. And then extend asset declaration to public servants, former Auditor General. The big story here, a special supplement on the Asante Hima, and you can get into the Daily Graphic and see. The Ghanaian Times, allowances restored. Teacher trainees, nurses to enjoy from March. Smiling Vice President there. Sure, this is news for these young ones in schools. And then allow President to settle down. Former President Akufo and Africa-France Summit ends. And again, rally behind my government. President Akufo-Addo appeals to Ghanaians. Daily Guide, we can do it, says Nana. That's Nanado there. And then leave President alone. That's former President Akufo talking. And Kumasi in black for Queen. The Herald. Fire baptism awaits Akufo-Addo's ministers. Criminal issues, workers' pension funds, school certificates, ethnocentric and sexist languages to surface. Guess the Herald is talking about the vetting. And then Flagstaff House caught in illegality again. Gov't in Opuni sacking. And MPP being untruthful over Mahama Bangalo saga. Kesley Hayford charges. Otumfuo's involvement revealed. Daily Heritage, forgive black stars. Reverend Dr. Lawrence Tete appeals to Ghanaians. And the story from Kumasi Otumfuo's mom begins ancestral journey today. The Finder says, boost for nuclear power. Russia, China ready to make Ghana net power exporter. And we're told that 10 IAEA experts in Ghana to review the progress of work. And Bank of Ghana positive about Ghana's economic growth. And also here, IMF government to meet over $918 million deal. Those are the stories on the pages. The Independent, we shall overcome. President Akufo-Addo declares. The Daily Statesman, Ghana can also make it. President assures. And on and on. And those are on the front pages of the news. I'm waiting for the Member of Parliament for the Adaklu constituency, Kwame Agoja, will join us very soon. But the Member of Parliament for the Efutu constituency, Honorable Alexander Finyamakin, is with us. Good morning once again.
Good morning.
I'm grateful for your time this morning.
Yes, it's good to be here. Just that we're not in a very happy mood.
It's true.
Last Friday, what happened to our good friend, Bismarck Baby.
Right.
May God bless his soul. There's somebody I started my career with. There were 3 friends, 4 of them. Edwin Arthur, Obi Menu, and Halifax Ansado. These were young journalists who took me as a good friend, and were giving me all the advice I needed to shape my political life. I remember in 2008 when I lost my primaries by a single vote, Bismarck wept. And we've been that close. Anytime we organize a program in Winneba, he will come. And then last Thursday, we were to do our first relaunch the taxiway campaign in Winneba. Have some donations of industrial machines, barbering equipment and all that. And I wanted to call Bismarck to coordinate it. Then I thought it would be expensive to bring journalists from Accra to Winneba. So I called somebody, a journalist in Central Region, to do it. Then in the morning, I was still thinking of Bismarck, that, I should call him. And I'll pick my phone and I will say, okay, that's all right. It will be too expensive. Only at noon in Winneba,
to get the news,
Obi-Men will call and say, Alex, Bismarck is gone. And a car just hit him like that. I can feel how the wife, what she's going through with little kids.
Right.
It's unfortunate, but I'm sure the Lord would find a resting place for her.
And let's see what the police will do about the whole
We're getting
it's a sad situation.
Some
the story not really
irregular, yes, because some are saying a driver lost control
and ran
into the Bismarck and the police.
And another police
Another eyewitness is also alleging that, well, the police had also arrested another trotro driver, and they were struggling. The police officer was struggling with the driver that he should do a U-turn, and he didn't do it. And in the process, the driver ran into Bismarck and the other police officer. And the sad aspect is that the police quickly took their colleague and rushed him to the hospital.
Yes, that's information.
That's information, and it has to be investigated. It's sad. It's sad, and my condolences to the family and those of you in the Inky fraternity.
Right. We're grateful, and of course to the family. Sure, this weekend, the 1 week will be on Saturday. We'll be there to support the family. All right, let's start with the Daily Guide this morning. The story on page 2 says, leave President alone. Former President John Agyekum Kufuor has warned critics of President Addo to give the first gentleman of the land a chance to deliver on his promises to the people. A section of the public had raised concerns about the number of ministers the president had designated to serve under his NPP administration, among other things saying the appointment of 36 ministers might put extra burden on the national kitty. But Mr. Akufo said that Nana Addo has the mandate to work and understands the decisions he's taking and should be allowed to do his job without any interference. He urged people who are criticizing to stop sitting on the fence and lend a hand to supporting President Akufo-Addo to achieve his dream. Alex, let's start from here. These ministers, 36, a quick comparison, right from Mr. Rawlings to Mr. Kufuor to Prof. Mills and then Mr. Mahama to Nana Addo suggests that indeed his 36 stands out. Should we be bothered about how many ministers are in there, or perhaps we should take a look at what they are in to do?
Well, first of all, I think I agree wholly with the position of President Kufuor. When we elect somebody as president, he comes with his vision and that of his party and the manifesto upon which the campaign was done.
Right.
It is the responsibility of that person to put in place a team. Concentrating on the size of that team, to me, does not really matter. It is what they are able to do. It is about the ability to achieve the vision of the government. So, for instance, if you leave certain areas without proper supervision, you're going to have problems. And I'll give you one example, which I've always been citing, the SADA. If SADA was properly monitored, we had a minister responsible for SADA, JIDA, and all those things, specifically mandated to monitor. We wouldn't have had that experience of borrowing 200 million at a compound interest and losing that whole thing. And that whole sector, the three northern regions, Brong-Ahafo, part of Brong-Ahafo, part of Volta, that whole area that the government wanted to alleviate poverty, that could not really achieve anything. That situation wouldn't have happened. So if, for instance, the president says, look, I want to make a minister, put in a minister in charge of monitoring and evaluation. He knows why he wants that done. People should not be talking about costs, but rather talking about the delivery. Well, if I am unable to put sufficient team together, the state may lose more money than just paying a minister and getting him to do the job and all that. If you look at
Alex, I'm not cutting it, but so your suggestion is that a ministry simply can deal with inefficiencies? Is that what you're saying?
No, but
because we saw the XTX housing deal, it came from the Minister of Water Resources, Works and Housing, and yet
no, right. That's a different. That's a different argument. Putting an incompetent person without a vision is a different matter. We are talking about the size, and I'm trying to submit that The size is really not an issue.
You said that if SADA had been under ministry,
And the
it
proper,
would have
yes,
worked.
with a competent.
And then I'm referring to you that the XCS housing deal came from the housing ministry, and yet it didn't work.
Well, because we didn't have that competence to deal with it.
All right. Now you are bringing the competence.
Yes.
Apart from it being under ministry.
Certainly. You want to deliver on your promise. We have our manifesto as a party. That manifesto has various policies. To be able to implement these policies, you need the men to do it. You don't want to overload one person with so many things. The president wants individuals to look at specific areas so that at the end of the day, the Ghanaian people will see that, look, the man promised this, he's been able to deliver. So it is not about the size. Of course, we don't expect the president to appoint a very large number.
36 is already large.
No. It cannot really be. It depends on how you want to look at it. But you see, look at the approach. This is not an announcement.
If we look at from Mr. Rawlings to President Akufo-Addo, 36 is large.
Right. You see the difference in this? Where we are, the president makes the appointment, takes his time to explain why, so that he leaves little room for speculation. And I think that should be well appreciated by the public and even the critics out there. He explains that, look, this is my vision, this is what I want to achieve, this is the reason why I am making somebody responsible for this. Look at Dr. Tornado, ambassador to Netherlands.
Right.
He was the director for monitoring and evaluation. But at a point he expressed his frustration publicly that, look, the initiative to have him there, very laudable. I was very happy because, look, if somebody is there monitoring and evaluating the performance of ministers, it helps the government. But here was a situation where he was not getting the cooperation of the various agencies. According to him, he will ask for information, data for proper planning for the perusal of the president. He wouldn't get it. Now, the same vision has been re-looked at. Okay, we need somebody in charge of monitoring and evaluation. We need an experienced person who has been a minister before. This time around, the person is also a minister at the presidency.
Right.
So if you are a minister in your sector and you get a call or you get a letter, a memo comes to you that ABCD is needed by me, knowing that this person who is asking for this information is at the presidency and can easily draw the president's attention to your inefficiency, I'm sure you cooperate. And it also helps the president to keep his ministers in check and to get quick feedback. The person they have put there, a former minister of state at the finance ministry, very experienced person, my own boss, who are the finance committee ranking member, very experienced, a professor, who a consultant. So you cannot beat the person with any information. He knows everything. So the president knows why the man has been put there. If you look at special projects, he's promised various things. We want to do this.
So what happens to these ministries that have monitoring and evaluation desks? What happens to these desks at the various ministries?
No, those are, they are not going to deal with policy issues. If at the ministry there's a unit in charge of monitoring and evaluation, maybe the specific administrative responsibility that it may now be, but we are looking at the broader policy of government. All right. Now the president is aware of the constitutional requirement that, all right, I need to select a certain number. I mean, at least half of the ministers from Parliament.
Okay. And Alexei, give me a minute. Still on this idea of the constitutional offer, but let me go to Kumasi. Catherine is ready at the. All right, Alex, please go.
Right. So that constitutional requirement is also there to pick a certain number of ministers from Parliament. Now, people are also talking about regional balance, that certain people should come from certain regions and all that. And I'm sure the president and the team of advisors are very conscious of that. But there's one thing that people are missing. And I don't think that I need to blame, I have to blame the public. I have to blame the politicians, those of us, the stakeholders in this whole act. There's too much pressure. The president, everybody is calling on the president, appoint my person as a minister, appoint this person as a minister. But can that really be possible?
But that's normal.
Yeah, exactly, I agree, but the possibility. If you come to parliament, we have 169 MPs on the governing party
on the majority
side.
Right.
Every MP's constituents have a certain expectation that, their MP will be appointed the minister. But that is not possible. It is important for all of us to educate our people and for the public to understand that, look, apart from the ministerial appointment, at the committee level in parliament, MPs also have a job. Government business is really conducted in parliament. So if you are not a minister and you are a chairman of a committee or a vice chairman of a committee, you have a responsibility. And I can tell you that a finance minister with a weak chairman of the finance committee would embarrass the government. The opposition will have a ride on and will embarrass the government. If you don't have strong committee chairpersons in parliament, government business cannot go on because
all those positions are open.
Of course. So if somebody is not a minister, we must explain that, look, equal competence is needed for the committees to function. You have ECOWAS Parliament, you have Pan-African Parliament, you have IPU, you have CPA. So for MPs, it is not all about ministerial, so that you don't make it to the president's list as a deputy minister or minister, then it means that you are not part of the government. But being a member of a committee, being a vice chair, being a chair, being part of a delegation to the ECOWAS Parliament or Pan-African Parliament, or serving on a board, would mean that you are contributing to the government, because there's a collective responsibility. It's not an individual affair. And I think that all of us have given the greater the impression that, it is only when you are a minister that you are able to function, or you are able to contribute, or that your constituent will say that, you are part of it. Apart from the MPs, others who are non-MPs but on the governing side, why? There are ambassadorial appointments, there are boards. For instance, if somebody is appointed chief executive of Cocoa Board, chief executive of GNPC,
so he or she is still part of the government.
You are, and it also adds up to the regional balance. So for instance, if you say, Western region, you have only 2 ministerial, then people may be complaining. But Western region somebody from Western region has been appointed chief executive of Ghana Port and Harbors. It's part of the government. You are playing a role. It is part of the regional balance. You get my point? It's a broader thing. It's not as simplistic as it is. So I think that it's about education, so that the public out there will not unduly put pressure, because the president cannot appoint everybody as a minister. The fact that you are not a minister doesn't mean that you have been reduced.
But what you're saying is not to suggest that it is because of the pressure that the president seemed to be creating new ministers.
No,
I don't think that is what what you want to say.
Right, you don't even have to infer. No, it doesn't come there. I am looking at the broader, like what Mr. Kufo said. Leave him alone.
Because you just confirmed that there's pressure on the president.
But it is a fact that politicians would want to hold public office. It's a fact. Why? If your party is in government, you would want to play a role. That is undeniable. But I'm saying that on the aspect of the ministerial appointment, people are talking about the size. People are also talking about regional balance. That pressure, is on the basis of that pressure that President Akufo is saying that, look, leave the man alone to achieve a mandate. On the basis of that, I am submitting that, look, people must understand that governance is a broad-based something. It is also a collective responsibility. You cannot put one man on everything. All of us cannot also be in a particular sector. If you are a deputy minister, it doesn't mean that you've been reduced in your status as a member of the party. Okay. If you are a member of a board contributing there,
you're still part of the government.
You are still part of the government.
All right.
So I think that people must understand, especially our party foot soldiers, our party people, our opinion leader, the chiefs. Because you may be in a particular constituency. Your chief may have a certain expectation. And your chief may think that, oh, because you are not in the list of ministers, it means that your constituency will not get anything. Oh, the region. Because the region doesn't seem, has not been given a certain number of ministries, or the region does not have a certain number of ministers, it means that the region has been left out. There should be that explanation for people to appreciate that, yes, maybe the region may have 2 ambassadors. Maybe the region may have somebody at such this department or government agency playing a certain role. Maybe somebody may be a chairman of a certain committee playing a certain role. These are all part of the diverse roles that one can play, so that at least people would appreciate wherever they find themselves. If you are not careful, there will be ego problems. The person, he says, why is it that I'm at the presidency? Why is that somebody is a minister and I am this? And you may not give out your best. So people must understand, and right, you in the media must also educate those out there. So that
Lex Afinyomakin, Member of Parliament for the Futu constituency, still with me in the studio. Let's wrap up on the ministers and take a look at what's on the front page of the Ghanaian Times. So the numbers have links with a constitutional implication that gets the president to pick the number of ministers from Parliament.
Yes, if you look at Article 78, let me take your leave and read. Ministers of state shall be appointed by the president with the prior approval of Parliament from among members of Parliament or persons qualified to be elected as members of Parliament, except that the majority of ministers of state shall be appointed from among members of Parliament. So the Constitution talks about majority of the ministers coming from Parliament. As you know, we have the hybrid system where we overlap, unlike other constitutions where you have strict separation of powers. If you are in Nigeria, for instance, if you are a minister of state, you can be a senator, you can be part of the legislature. So if for any reason you are a member of Parliament and the president nominates you, then you have to resign. In the US, we have a similar thing, where Hillary was a senator for New York, and Obama appointed her Secretary of State, and she had to give up that post. So ours is different. That is why perhaps people sometimes, some people have argued that we need to go back to the system where we have, so that when you are elected a member of Parliament, you are a member of Parliament,
and not as a minister.
Those who would want to be in the executive would be in the executive. But bear in mind that the president has assured us that he's going to strengthen Parliament. He's going to make our Parliament a vibrant one, to be able to exercise its oversight responsibility.
I'm grateful. Let's jump to the Ghanaian Times this morning. Government restores allowance for teacher, trainees, nurses. The story says that the government will restore the much-awaited teacher, trainee allowance, teacher and nursing trainee allowance in March. The restoration is in fulfillment of the promise made by President Akufo-Addo during the 2016 campaigns. We're told that Vice President Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bamia was speaking at Fadama and said the government was committed to fulfilling all promises made to Ghanaians. He said the policy will come off after the first budget in March. According to him, government is determined to restore our promise on the teacher, trainee, and nursing allowances. The teacher, trainee, and nursing allowances will come off after the first budget in March, and goes on and on and on and talks about that. Alex, let's start from here. This was a campaign issue. The NDC preferred that let us take off the allowance and allow more people to get into the system. The argument was that government was unable to pay the allowance, and so there's a quota for admissions and cutting down access. Now it's been restored. Is the government also looking at access?
Was it really the argument?
Well, that was the argument of the NDC.
They were not consistent with their intention, and I don't think there was a clear policy on their decision in taking away the allowance. In any event, they attempted restoring it when they realized that it wasn't going well. And then they cited the legislative backing that, well, the whole thing was backed by law. And until they finish the upgrading of the institutions to the tertiary, they felt that the law would not allow them to take that away.
Allow the students to access
but
the students' loan trust.
That had been taken away anyway. So they were not consistent. To this government, it is not about the fact that if you take away the allowance, it's going to now allow government to expand those institutions and allow access. Already, those institutions are taking the required number. In any event, we have more trained nurses and more trained teachers who are still unemployed because government does not have the space for them in our hospitals and in our schools. So it's not an issue of saying that, well, if we take the allowance away, we're going to have access. No, I disagree. I think the government then did not really project its priorities in a way that could cater for the allowances
and leave more resources for
because
sectors.
You know, the NDC ran a very highly geared economy. So much pressure on certain areas, and even where you advise them, you speak up in opposition and tell them, look, this area, deal with the waste. They would not look at it, because if you are going to borrow money from somebody, and just pre-disbursement penalties alone will cost you over $200 million, and you are supposed to pay trainee allowances that would not even exceed $100 million, then you have a problem. In one way, your inability to meet somebody's pre-disbursement requirement is costing you $200 million. Yet you are unable to put in place systems to be able to take care of the allowances of students, which is costing you less. So it's about identifying your priorities. It's about managing and protecting the public purse in such a manner that you'll be able to take care of some of these essential aspects that would support your own citizens. So it doesn't come as a surprise that Dr. Bawumia is re-echoing the campaign promise. Now look, come March, when the budget is drawn, would be able to take care of the teacher trainee and the nursing trainee allowance. Simplicity, that's how it is. And it's going to be done.
But the issue of the quota system, what do you think?
With quota?
Because the argument was that because government pays so much for these trainees, they had to cut down the number of trainees into the teacher and nursing training school.
Right. Unfortunately, my colleague on the other side is not here to make the argument more interesting. But the point is that the NDC in its public communication was not consistent on the rationale behind the taking away of the allowance. Therefore, I'm unable to use those inconsistent explanations they gave as a basis to argue today.
Okay.
I am saying that for nursing trainees and teacher trainees, it's a matter of right, policy-wise, that they are there, they need the allowance, they do not take student loans, they need the allowance, and that has been the practice. So, this government sees the need to restore same, and that has been restored.
Okay.
So
we're not likely to see
because the NDC
saying that we cannot get admission based on the fact that this is what government can pay. We're not likely to see anything like that.
Right. Put your question properly.
Okay. So the argument is this, that because we cannot pay so much, we're reducing the numbers that have applied from 10 to 5. Now, training allowances are restored. We're not going to have a situation where we have students saying that we cannot get admission because the schools are saying that they have exceeded the number of people they can admit.
Well, you are being speculative.
Okay.
You are being speculative. We've not gotten there.
Okay.
So let's not speculate.
All right.
The most important thing is that
It's been
allowances as a matter of right are being restored. Let's take it from there. The next stage, it would cater for itself.
I'm grateful. Let's jump to the BNFT this morning. It says that tax cut not the solution. This is from the chief executive of Delex Finance, and he is suggesting, he's asked the Nana Akufo-Addo-led administration to go beyond just scrapping taxes and rather come up with policies and programs that will allow the private sector to thrive. Now, he says, I don't think businesses collapse because of taxes. Businesses collapse because there is no business. He says the issue is that government will have to find a way to expand the tax net. According to Mr. Thompson, the private sector only needs an enabling environment to expand and create much needed jobs. He says taking off taxes in itself will not achieve much. It must be accompanied by policies and programs to get the private sector to invest into the productive sectors of the economy. Alex, again from here, this is another key promise from government, and the concerns are that taking the taxes off alone won't create that enabling environment, and that the private sector will need more than just the taxes taken off.
Well, to some extent, I agree with that point, that it is not just about cutting taxes, reducing taxes. It's about
also expanding,
creating an all-inclusive enabling environment. So you realize that the president has appointed a minister responsible for business development to do that interface with the private sector, the AGI, Chamber of Commerce, and all the industry players, and ensure that, yes, their expectations are met. But it is also important for people to note that when you overburden the private sector with taxes, it affects business, and there is therefore no incentive. People would rather prefer to invest in treasury bills rather than spending their money in projects or investing in a business only to be overtaxed. So at least the government must be commended for that bold step at reducing taxes. If you go to the ports, I remember as a member of the finance committee, there were a lot of times that at least I found some petitions in my pigeonhole. Importers, clearing agents complaining of the taxes, the VAT and all that. So if people, businessmen feel that, look, if you act with that, okay, the little that I'm supposed to pay, I'm able to pay. Rather, I agree also with the point that we should expand the tax net so that people would, a lot of people who don't pay taxes would be brought into the net. Then the nation would get enough for development. But if you also criticize that, yes, really reducing taxes is not a solution, I would also disagree. Because in a way, it's a solution. Because when people are complaining and they say, look, you're overburdening us, you have to look at it. Now the president says that, look, I'm appointing a minister. You remember the Youth Enterprise Support Initiative?
The YES initiative.
Yes. That initiative, very laudable. But implementation was a problem. Why was it a problem? It was under the president's own supervision. A unit an office was created. The chief executive was reporting to the president. The beneficiaries, I held the view that AGI or industry, the local players in the industry were disengaged, were not engaged, were not involved in the implementation. Because if you have a body like Association of Ghana Industries, and you have this initiative coming up, it is important to partner them. If you go to Maslow, we have a similar problem. Loans are given out. Sometimes people who do not even have the orientation, they have not gone through that training to be entrepreneurs, to be able to pay back. Then maybe for political considerations they are being given. So I am very certain that with the decision by the president to appoint a minister for business development. I'm sure as part of his responsibilities, he's going to work with the private sector. Some of these initiatives at years would come under that minister's mandate to be able to give practical effect that the people would benefit. Because not just if you throw out money without getting the returns, I'm telling you that we'll come back to square one. If it's getting a party man and he says, I'm going to do business, and the person does not pay back, or the person is unable to roll out a proper business plan to be able to create jobs or create employment for himself or herself, you have achieved nothing. That money would be going down the drain.
I see. The issue of tax, expanding the tax net, isn't it a huge task? Is government able to deal with it? It's been talked about for so long, and yet it is the same small group of people who keep paying taxes.
It needs the cooperation and the commitment of all of us, being patriotic. If we appreciate the fact that paying our taxes or working as a businessman, we have a responsibility to pay taxes, and we are ready to allow institutions to work, right? It wouldn't be difficult. So the state institutions, GRA, has that responsibility. Fortunately, some reforms have taken place at the Registrar General. Gone were the days that you could just go and fill a form, and then you would register a business, and you would later go and register with GRA and all that. Today is not the case. You need your TIN number. That is the first step.
The tax ID.
So yes. So immediately you register your business, you are captured in the tax net. So the next step is your own corporation. The next step again is for the GRA officials to
be active about
getting people to do pay their tax. It's not only where you are going to bid for government business, government job, that there will be a requirement. Those of us professionals, I mean lawyers, chartered accountants, surveyors, agents. How many clearing agents pay their regular tax from the profit they make? How many estate agents? Somebody is an agent. He's in a small corner.
Yeah.
He rents out properties and doesn't pay his tax.
Landlords are taking huge monies and not paying.
Lawyers, do we pay all the required taxes on monies we make from our clients? Chartered accountants, surveyors, all the professionals. So I think that there's a new day, a new era. Can we all decide? Because the government alone cannot do it. If the laws are there, but then we do not cooperate, are there some laws in our court that even before you file a process in court,
you
should file?
As to whether you
yes, there
paid
should
your
be.
taxes
I mean, you know, if you are an estate agent, before you give out a property for rent, the person who is going to pay must inspect you. I mean, there should be that system in place.
All right.
You sell, you're going to register property, land commission. Is there any requirement for evidence of payment of tax and all that?
Alex,
so
I'm grateful.
If all those things work together and we cooperate, and mind you, the bottom line is cooperation.
Okay.
If we all dodge it, I'm sure there will be a problem. And
Alex,
then a few who are paying would continue to carry the extra burden of paying more.
Okay. I'm grateful for your time this morning. Alexander Finyo Markin is a member of parliament for the Futu constituency. Wish you a great Monday and hope to see you next week.
God willing. We pray.